From Chicago studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Samana, Siddiqui. First, the headlines. Michigan high schooler used father's gun to kill 3 students. Muslims see disparities and dangers in the treatment of January 6 attackers. A British paper admits report on media coverage of Islam has valid criticisms. Refugee children are at the border of Poland getting some help. Hate won. Indian Muslim comic says he's done after shows axed. Our top story tonight. A 15-year-old student who allegedly killed 3 other students yesterday at his high school outside of Detroit was using his father's semi-automatic handgun, which had been purchased last Friday. 8 people, including 1 teacher, were also wounded in the attack at Oxford High School. The shooter unleashed 15 to 20 shots over about 5 minutes. His weapon, a 9mm Sig Sauer, is a concealed carry firearm. Authorities have not released the shooter's writings that contain some of his thoughts. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer said, "I think this is every parent's worst nightmare." She added that shootings at schools are a uniquely American problem that we need to address. A special segment on this topic is coming up later tonight in our show, so keep watching Muslim Network TV. Former U.S. President Donald Trump's ex-chief of staff, Mark Meadows, turned over documents and agreed to be deposed in the House's inquiry into the January 6th attack. The move helped stave off a criminal contempt referral for now. Committee Chair Benny Thompson said Meadows has been working with the Select Committee through his attorney. He will soon appear for an initial deposition. Meadows' lawyer George Terwilliger told CNN there now is an understanding between the 2 parties on how information can be exchanged moving forward. Muslim comedian and radio host Dean Obeidullah called the January 6 riot at the U.S. Capitol a terrorist attack carried out by the American version of Al-Qaeda. Obeidullah said Muslim militants are often labeled terrorists, so the reversal is almost surreal. He and other activists and attorneys said the U.S. Justice Department's prosecution of the January 6 perpetrators is a reminder of the deep disparities that persist in cases involving Muslims. The defendants who were filmed battering Capitol police officers are expected to receive less time in prison than Muslims who are prosecuted on non-violent terrorism charges. That is largely due to differences in how the law treats foreign versus domestic terrorism cases. Despite repeatedly denouncing ISIS and Al-Qaeda, American Muslims continue to face pressure from right-wing pundits to apologize for attacks they had no connection with. In contrast, those same pundits and much of the Republican establishment is defending the violent, mostly white extremists at the heart of the government's January 6 investigation. Celebrity cardiac surgeon Dr. Mehmet announced Tuesday he is running as a Republican for the U.S. Senate in the state of Pennsylvania. Oz said he decided to run because he learned during the pandemic that mixing politics and medicine doesn't provide any solutions. In an op-ed published in the Washington Examiner, Oz said he's running to help fix the problems and to help us heal. The 61-year-old Turkish-American Muslim is the latest Republican, vying for the seat being vacated by retiring Senator Pat Toomey next year. The Muslim community in Rockford, Illinois offered funeral prayers for Sameh al-Timimiyat last week. The 29-year-old was shot multiple times outside his parents' home on November 19th. He was pronounced dead at a local hospital. No arrests have been made in his shooting. An Iraqi-American, he was to be married the week after he was killed. He was enrolled in Rock Valley College's aviation program and worked at Emory Air at the Chicago Rockford International Airport. A massive weekend fire underneath an Atlanta bridge started because of a homeless encampment, fire officials said. A nearby resident said he sees fires in the area constantly, which typically tend to be garbage or tents burning. Video shared by Atlanta Fire Company 29 shows black smoke billowing from underneath the bridge near Interstate 285. As firefighters put out the flames, they found grills, mattresses, propane tanks, trash generators, and furniture burning. An area resident said such fires damaged roadways, gas, and water lines. A landmark report into British media's coverage of Islam and Muslims has found shocking levels of misinformation, stereotyping, and Islamophobia. Sunday Times editor Emma Tucker welcomed the report, admitting it has valid criticisms. The analysis by the Muslim Council of Britain highlights failures in newswire coverage, as well as Islamophobia in The Spectator, The Telegraph, and other media. The report analyzed over 48,000 online articles and 5,500 broadcast clips between October 2018 and September 2019. It found almost 60% of the stories and 47% of television clips associated Muslims and/or Islam with negative behavior. The report also presents 10 case studies of Muslims being misrepresented, defamed, and libeled in major publications. Damages were paid in 9 of the cases, along with public apologies. A survivor of a deadly English Channel boat disaster last week told Kurdish television that the British Coastguard ignored migrants' repeated calls for help as their boat sank. The refugees were attempting to make the crossing between France and Britain. The disaster left 27 refugees dead, a minister said on Monday. French Interior Minister Gérald Darmanin said France was prepared to resume discussions with the UK on the issue. Families trying to enter the European Union from Belarus are accompanied by about 500 children. Those children got a haircut in the area, which was built by the Belarusian Administration for Children's Hair Care and Cleaning on November 29th. Since August, EU countries bordering Belarus, such as Lithuania, Latvia, and Poland, have reported a dramatic increase in irregular crossings. Over 8,000 people have tried to enter the bloc via the Belarus-EU border this year, up from 150 last year. A former member of ISIS was convicted by a German court on Tuesday of genocide and committing a war crime. The defendant's lawyers had denied allegations made against their client. The charges stem from the death of a 5-year-old Yazidi girl. The Frankfurt Regional Court sentenced Slaha, an Iraqi citizen whose last name was not released due to privacy rules, to life imprisonment. He was ordered to pay the girl's mother $57,000. An alliance of left-leaning students at Arizona State University is demanding Kyle Rittenhouse be removed from online classes and banned from campus. The 18-year-old was acquitted last month on charges of murdering 2 men and injuring another during protests for racial justice in Wisconsin last year. Since then, he has been celebrated in right-wing circles. Rittenhouse told the court he had enrolled in nursing classes at ASU. An Arizona TV station investigation revealed he was taking a virtual class, not attending in person. A 29-year-old Muslim stand-up comedian in India announced his retirement after right-wing Hindu groups forced cancellation of his shows, Al Jazeera reports. Munawar Farooqi earlier spent 37 days in jail for jokes he never told. Farooqi said he is done and hate has won after nearly a dozen shows were cancelled in 2 months following threats from extremists. Hindutva groups have targeted Farooqi for his jokes about the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party. He told NDTV last month that he gets 50 threat calls daily and that he was forced to change his phone number 3 times. Pakistan will host a summit of Muslim countries to address the growing humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan. Pakistan's offer comes after a request from Saudi Arabia, which chairs the 57-member Organization of Islamic Cooperation, or OIC. It will be the largest international summit on Afghanistan since the Taliban's return to power last August, on the heels of a U.S. troop withdrawal. America has since frozen over $9 billion in Afghanistan's assets. The United Nations has warned that the country is on the brink of the worst global humanitarian catastrophe. More than half of the country is facing acute food shortages. Mass starvation and migration are feared, with a long, hard winter on the horizon. Coming up next after the break is our in-depth analysis segment, so stay tuned and we'll be right back after these messages.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize, and accuse. Walk a mile in my shoes.
Despite the development of a COVID-19 vaccine, millions around the world will not have access. We need a vaccine that's free and available to everyone, everywhere. It's time for a people's vaccine.
Dad, they took over my bedroom. Come on, come on. Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. Dad! You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
Welcome back. To discuss the Michigan school shooting and its impact on the survivors, let's go to Imam Abdul Malik Mujahid. Over to you, Imam Mujahid.
Thank you, Samana. Shooting in Michigan in a school has once again brought a trauma to everyone who heard. 3 children have died and 8 are injured, but the whole school was shaken. And I wonder if not the whole Michigan and the nation that it's happening again. How do we deal with the trauma and the stress which these type of events continue to cause? With us is an expert, Dr. Arash Jawanbakht. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Muslim Network TV.
Assalamu alaikum. It's a pleasure to be here.
Dr. Jawanbakht, you being a psychiatrist who serves as a director of a stress, trauma, and anxiety research clinic at Michigan, what do you think at this situation, parents who are worried about their children should be thinking and doing?
Yeah, so these are very unfortunate events and very sad. And every time that things like this happen in a new place, which was supposed to be safe, a lot of people start thinking that, okay, this place is on the not so safe list now and from now on. And unfortunately, school shootings have happened repeatedly in the country. And it is disturbing. It's disturbing to the parents. It's disturbing to the children. A lot of children may become even scared and worried about going to school. So we can talk about what are the impacts of these experiences on people and then how to deal with them. So your first question was about how to deal with the stressors or this kind of news. Although these are very sad, however, we shouldn't lose the sight of the fact that we are still in a relatively safe environment. Meaning that if I'm looking at the table news for the next few days, for 10 hours a day, I'll be exposed to horrific news and images and pictures of this experience. And this shooting becomes so much central to the news and the exposure we get to them, that we start to lose the sight and we start feeling very, very unsafe. It basically is presented to us the way that we think that the chances are very high at any school this can happen. Although, unfortunately, this can happen, but remembering that the chances are still not as high is good. So when it comes to kids and worrying about the children, of course, the first part is the worry of the parents themselves. How we can handle these worries and concerns. One is to be able to not lose the sight of the facts, know what are the chances. And also remember, there are a lot of people at work to keep the kids safe. At the same time, when it comes to talking to the children may be worried. And children, a lot of times, because our kids don't know how safe or unsafe the environment is, right? A 6-year-old, 7-year-old, 8-year-old, they don't know. A lot of times they look at their parents, and when they see mom is very worried, mom is very nervous, dad is watching these news 4 hours a day, they get terrified. So not showing worry, concern, showing that we are in control, showing we are safe, home is safe, everybody at the school, teachers, the law enforcement are trying their best to keep the kids safe, and not allowing the kids have too much exposure to the news. There's even research that smaller kids, younger kids, when they keep seeing repeated views of these experiences and these scenes on the TV, they even may think this is recurring and this keeps happening in the environment, and the perception of fear becomes more difficult. And of course, there's an important aspect that I'm not suggesting this should be denied. We should talk to the kids. We should talk about the facts based on this age and the language they can understand, and be open to their questions, listen to them and see what they want to talk about and what they're worried about, and then provide the support and provide the assurance that we can, of course, realistically.
Dr. Jawanbakht, this school was trained if the active shooter comes, how to handle that. And they try to apply that training by shutting down the door, putting the desk against that. And those trainings seems to have gone throughout America. So your advice is to see in proportion that we are safe, but here kids are trained. And somehow in this Michigan case, there were rumors that something going to happen, and it did happen. So this is too real to balance it with the fact that it hasn't happened in last 2 years.
Absolutely right. This is terrible. Like, one event is too many. I'm not denying the fact that these are horrible events and can happen. There is a possibility. What I'm trying to say here is that we don't want to give in to the fear to the point that we are always terrified that such a thing can happen and limit our ability to live our lives and enjoy it. What I'm saying is, I'm not saying we are safe against totally things like this happening forever. What I'm saying is that relatively, we can say we live in a relatively safe life, meaning that tomorrow when I go to the school, chances are very, very low such a shooting might happen. Of course, being prepared, of course, knowing the drills, of course, knowing what to do in this situation, and especially teaching the kids is helpful, can save some lives. But there are things that we can do and there are things we cannot do. I can never predict if when I go to a movie theater or a mall or a school, someone may come in with a gun and start shooting at people. I cannot predict that and I cannot control that. But there are things in my life that I can control, which can reduce the level of distress and fear and anxiety we are experiencing. Because we don't want to give in to the fear and let it overcome our life and living and basically make our children to be scared for the rest of their life.
Professor Taman Bakht, one of the questions I have is that media, there is so much news, such what news, and the same news is shared on social media and all around. Do you think fear get exaggerated because of the constant media coverage of negative news?
The most important reason I came in starting saying that we are not that threatened and we are relatively safe, because I'm trying to balance out what people are getting from the media. Definitely. Unfortunately, and I always say this, the social media and cable news, at the end of the day, they are corporations. And for a corporation, the top priority is revenue. And there is research over research that shows fear, aggression, negative emotions grab people's attention a lot more. So bring a lot more clickbait, clicking on the links and news and watching the news. And that's why sometimes these news become like what I call quote unquote disaster pornography. They keep repeating and repeating and repeating to the point that the viewer may believe that Detroit or the whole state of Michigan is now a war zone and nobody feels safe anywhere in Detroit. That's what we want to avoid. And the way to avoid is in general, because especially over the past few years, the media has been the news has been very sad. Open any of the major cable news. When was the last time you heard someone happily saying, this is some awesome, great news? No, it's always about how everything is horrible and the whole world is going down. So if I'm exposed to that kind of coverage 10 hours a day, how would my feeling be? How would my mood be? Because my perception and understanding of the world is based on what is fed to me. That's why I suggest and highly recommend people. I don't recommend people to be uninformed. No, get informed, get your news, watch your TV or read the news, but enough, not too much. I don't need to watch the pictures and videos and emotional analysis of the school shooting that happened yesterday 5 hours a day.
Dr. Taman Bakht, thank you so much for your thoughts. Share with me, are there research and studies which point out how media negativity impacts mental health? There
is evidence that as I mentioned, especially when it comes to social media, there are algorithms which basically keep showing us what they think and believe we may click on and may be attracted to. Because that's the measure of, and how much we are engaged with, that's the measure of the engagement. And that engagement, we know, is increased by anything emotional. And also we know negative emotions create larger engagement and sharing. People very easily and comfortably share news or links which are related to something they're really angry at or they really hate. So that's how gradually what I start finding and seeing on my feed, and as I just mentioned in the news, is all the negativity and all that keeps us angry. And I always say it's like our stomach. If all I'm eating is garbage food, I will feel sick. The same applies to my brain and my mind. If all that I'm feeding to my mind is sad and scary, I will not be feeling very happy.
Dr. Jaman Bakht is a psychiatrist and practicing in Michigan. One question I have with you is recently a survey this year came out of California school system. And it says that 56% of Muslim children are fearful of attending school. Almost 45% has been actually bullied, and some of the people bullying are teachers. Do you think somehow this is tied to the negative portrayal of Muslims in the media? One research says that 92% of different headlines in mainstream media associate Muslim with the negative news or foreignness and things like that. Do you think some of that media negativity may be responsible for children being afraid of going to school?
So it's important to put the data in perspective. I would be able to make a judgment on those findings if I had data and I knew what is the percentages on non-Muslim children. But I agree, like my team, we have research in Syrian and Iraqi refugees in America. And what we found was that in Iraqi refugees, Muslim refugees had a higher level of trauma and anxiety compared to non-Muslims. Of course, part could be because of the higher focus of ISIS on these people because they were to ISIS the immediate threat, but also coming to a host country which might not be very familiar with their culture and with their religion, or feeling that, especially during the previous administration, not being liked much. But at the same time, you have a very true point. The reality is that, unfortunately, like anything else, like I always say, if I have never been exposed to a type of people, all I know about them is based on what I'm fed to, whether it's the media or it's my cousins or my relatives. If everybody who is around me looks like me and eats like me and talks like me and everything like that, then my perception of the rest of the world is based on what's fed to me. And as you mentioned, media on a lot of times present Muslims, have presented historically. I'm glad things are getting at least less bad when it's not just brushing all the Muslims as the way that movies used to portray them in the past. And at the same time, even when it comes to the defense of Muslims, it's not that, okay, look at this Muslim Islamic culture and look at their food and look at their behavior and look at the cool things in the culture. It's basically saying that, oh, no, they are not dangerous. So it's either Muslims are dangerous or undangerous, meaning that less bad. So I believe if like media like yourself and others can move beyond the idea of bad or not bad and talk about good, be able to present the positives of, and in general, Muslim is like, it's very hard to define characteristics of Muslims because Muslims come from very, very, very diverse backgrounds and nationalities. So if there are, and I always say, if you sit down with someone and eat with them, it's very, very hard to hate them because then you find out they're humans like you with the same wishes and hopes and fears and positives and negatives. So yeah, I agree that media needs to do a lot more to basically portray a realistic picture of people who also have the religion of Islam.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Dr. Jaman Bakht. Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Back to you, Samana.
Thank you, Imam Mujahid. That's all from our Chicago studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can find previous episodes and more on our YouTube or Facebook. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Salam and good night.